I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Except when we are on indie mission,
Indie
bitches!
Mission.
And we are covering the indie book They Came in the Night by Ravi Novais.
They came in
This
the
very
night.
dark book.
It
But
is, actually.
it is very dark and twisted. So before we get into it, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I think the last time we recorded, I was in the midst of The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne.
Mm-hmm.
I finished it and I love that book so much. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I like, I don't like to give white men too much credit, but here's the thing. John Gwynne deserves all the credit. This is so far just such a fantastic trilogy. It's so well written, and I really think where he shines, because I said previously, like, I think you could probably like give this plot to another author. And I'm not saying he's not talented at writing plot either. It's also a very like investing plot. Like you're really getting into that as well as a reader. But I think he has just such a talent for writing characters.
Mm.
Every single character I was just deeply engaged with and like wanting to know what was going to happen to them. And the dialogue for all the characters was great. And they just have interesting stories. And the chapters are written from different perspectives of different characters. And we have more perspectives in this book. And I just thought all of it was so great. Even the villains are fantastic. And I think especially the women are written so well. And it's
Good.
more impressive to me that it's a man writing these women, because I'm like, men, take notes. This is how you write women. Why aren't other people able to do this? I can't figure it out. But yeah, just such a well-written book. And my birthday's coming up and I want to start the third book because it's my birthday, and I that will be a happy birthday to me, is to read the third book in the Bloodsworn saga. But I
For your
just
birthday, do I start the Bloodsworn saga? Is that what I do for your birthday this
I
year?
mean, I'm just gonna like go all in on John Gwynne books. Like I'm reading them all for my
Good.
birthday. But yeah, I really loved The Hunger of the Gods. It was so good, and I put on Blue Sky like, I finished the book. It's gonna be in my thought cage forever. And because they say like instead of your brain, your thought cage
Oh,
in
good.
the book, and I'm like, I loved everything about this book. It was so good. And I don't know if I just like really like Viking stories or Norse mythology type stories. I like mythology, but I've had a couple of recent reads that were Viking related, like Vinland Saga, which I loved Vinland Saga so much too. But the Bloodsworn Saga is so far so great. Just love it
So far,
so
so
much.
great.
And John Gwynne, I am so impressed by your characterization. Like, fantastic, fantastic work. I can't wait to read all of your other books. Like, you've found a forever fan because these are
Good.
so good. And then I've been watching the Apothecary Diaries on Hulu. And
Oh, I've never heard of these.
okay, so it's an anime,
Of
uh,
course.
but it's so fun though.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
so it's like set in, I don't think it's a real place. I think it's a fictional place, but it's like um kind of like an imperial like Asian country, I believe. Uh like back in the past, and it follows a girl named Mao who was kidnapped and sold to the palace as an indentured
Okay.
servant, and she is able to use her own experience like working for her father in an apothecary, and she is able to gain status and move up into the position of like taste tester
Okay.
for the higher ups. And so it's kind of like this situation where she's tasting the food before people eat it, and she, through her previous work with her dad, has learned so much about all these different foods and plants and concoctions and everything, that she not only like knows all the different plants and poisons and all this stuff, but she also knows a lot about medicine and everything. And so each episode is kind of like a mini little mystery that she solves. And I really just dig it. It's like chips, and you're just like, ooh, what's it gonna be this time? It's kind of like anime house, but less problematic. Like
Oh, love a good anime house, but less problematic moment.
I really think it's so much fun. And even my husband has watched a few episodes with me and he's liked it too. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is one we'll watch together. But it's such a light series and just very interesting. And I really enjoy the mystery aspect of it. Just a ton of fun. And then my husband and I together, we watched all of the Chernobyl miniseries, which I
Oh,
think that came
yeah.
out in like 2019.
That came out a while ago. Yeah. I remember I read the book it
Yeah,
was based on, and then I don't remember if I actually ever watched the TV series itself.
it was very good. I I think it was obviously very heavy, like a
Yes.
lot to take in. We watched just like one episode a night, but I think it's well worth the watch. The acting in it was phenomenal. I mean, obviously all of the people involved in it got some sort of award, it seems,
Right.
but it was very well acted, and I think they did a really good job of portraying all the different people who were coming together in this situation, kind of highlighting some of the stories of people who were involved, and also a lot of the cover ups that were attempted at this time and everything,
Yeah.
and also showing a lot of the impact on the people and the area itself. And obviously, it was a drama series, so there was a lot of tension, even though, like, we know now what happened, that everything did end up being quote unquote okay. It was very tense to watch a lot of that. And I think just seeing some of the situations that people were put into where they were having, people go in to try and make it so it could be less radiation exposure. A lot of people had to go in and like dig tunnels and stuff like that. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
were exposed to so much radiation
Mm-hmm.
that it was difficult to watch that type of thing, knowing like, oh my gosh, they are doing so much damage to their bodies just to try and protect other people. And I think that was pretty difficult to watch and to know that certain people's lives were considered expendable in
Yeah.
terms of we need to make these moves now in order to protect a greater group. And the selflessness of some people was also surprising too. I don't know. Again, this is a drama series, so I don't know for sure how selfless it was at the time or if it was very much like a no, you're going in there now and doing this type of situation. It's hard for me to say just watching the show, but I was somewhat moved by the people who were asked to perform some of these tasks in order to kind of slow the progression or stop the fire, um, how quick they were able to volunteer to do some of these things or voluntold, how quick they were voluntold to do some of these things, because what a daunting thing to have to do and
Yeah.
all of the unknowns involved with it. But it was a really good show, and we really liked Stellan Skarsgård and um, Harris. What is his first name? Like,
Stellar skateboard himself.
what's that?
Stellar skateboard himself.
Oh yes, I've been watching so much of Stellan Skarsgård, like Mamma Mia again.
Oh my goodness.
I
You
love
good?
Mamma Mia. I did not watch his true uh uh magnum opus, which is Thor 2,
Oh,
but
Thor.
that's okay. Um Jared Harris, who is Richard Harris's son. I could only think of his dad for some reason. I'm like, oh, Richard Harris, the original Dumbledore, uh, his son. But no, Jared Harris, he played Valery Legasov. But yeah, he was very good, and Emily Watson was in it. She was great as well. Um, all of the acting was really good. I noticed a lot of like crossover because we had just previously watched Andor. A lot of the actors who were in Andor were also in Chernobyl, so that was kind of interesting to us to see.
Wild, wild, random, like, oh yeah,
I know.
lots of overlap.
I weird, right? We were like, "Oh, that's so and so. Oh, yeah, that's him." But yeah, that was kind of cool to see those characters. But it was a really tough show to watch, but I think a really, really good one. And I hope that they were very accurate to actual events because otherwise that would be quite bad.
Yeah.
But I think that the show really, from what I know, did a great job.
Good.
So, Hannah, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Well, as we know, Mega May closed out not with a bang, but with a whimper because I was really busy this month.
Not gonna lie, it closed out well for me. I got
Yeah.
two Mega Maze read.
I did finish two Mega Mays, so I can check in with my Mega Mays.
Bingo.
One was the Buddy Read, which wasn't as super popular as it was last year. I feel like Sword of Kaigen was the ultimate for many people.
Hmm.
Um, but I did finish The Lies of Locke Lamora. Laura made a good point off mic that I can kind of sometimes be taciturn about popular books, and that might have skewed my view of Lies of Locke
Hmm.
Lamora. I will say it was not my favorite book I've ever read. It's probably my least favorite of all the Mega May options. Although I will note that I don't remember loving Priory of the Orange Tree. I loved the second book. The first book was a little bit confusing from what I can
I'm not even
remember.
remembering all of them that you've done for Mega May. I just remembered Jonathan Strange, which I dipped out on because it became too overwhelming for me and it was kind of boring.
I love Jonathan Strange. It was the type of book I like, which is just like boring, dramatic people talking. And I can recognize that about myself. But Liza Lamora just didn't quite hit for me personally. I realize I'm not really a heist girly in books. Like they don't
Hmm.
always make sense to me. A lot of
I'm
times
usually
it's
not either.
you're just like watching something happen and it's an action scene and then all of a sudden they're like, do you want to know what was really happening during the action scene? And I'm like, well, I could just not pay attention during the action scene and
Right.
then find out later and then I'm confused later because I should have been paying
Hmm.
attention. um but I can see why people love it. It wasn't particularly a book for me. I think the ending was great. But I didn't need 650 pages of just some characters that I didn't feel personally connected to.
Right.
For my other Mega Mape, I finished The Ending Fire by Sarah El-Arifi, the Ending Fire
Mm.
trilogy. It was the last installment.
This is the
Uh,
one you said you were struggling with the characters, right?
yes, I really liked what they did with the characters towards the end. I thought it like everything kind of resolved well. I will say there were pieces that felt a little bit rushed, but this is also,
Hmm.
I think, like one of her first trilogies. So I'm gonna give her the like benefit of the doubt on that one where it's like a
Hmm.
first for her. Um, she, she's creating this very big, large world, and you're trying to like tie off a lot of loose ends with a lot of deep world building. So it's gonna feel a little bit rushed. And I think she even like went on the record that she would have loved to make this just like a longer series. And I think you felt that the most in the third book, that she was really constrained by the fact that she was given this as a trilogy. So
Sure.
I still really liked it. I think, the characters what I really liked about this book was a lot of times like there are books where love conquers all, but this book like love had consequences where like one of the
Hmm.
main characters um she, she does like have a really rough patch with one of her friends because a huge part of this is like this book follows Sila, a woman who um, was like was kidnapped as a child to be raised to like have a rebellion against these like people in power who oppress people with different blood types than them. And she falls in love with a person who at the beginning is stated to be the person that she was swapped with. And throughout the book, you kind of see their romance blooming and she kind of becomes obsessed with her. But during this time, like she was part of one of the oppressed classes, but there's an oppressed class, or she was believed to be part of this oppressed class. She wasn't technically, she's part of the royal class. But she met someone who was a slave in this other class of people. They have clear blood and they like learned how to, but at the beginning of the books, you think like people in society think that they aren't smart, but you find out that they can communicate even though their hands are chopped off at birth and their tongues are cut
Oh my
out.
gosh.
They learn how to do a specific type of signing to talk. And she is good friends with one of these people, Hassa, and she becomes like a good ally who is like, I'm going to use my power
Hmm.
to help get this like the most oppressed class brought up, and like it's not
Sure.
just good enough that these, I believe it's blue bloods, I believe she's a red blood, and then the blue bloods are seen as like second class. She's like, it's not just enough that like we want to raise up the blue bloods, we have to raise up these clear blooded people, and it really matters. And then she falls in love, and she kind of makes a couple stumbles where she's like, I have to get back to the love of my life. And Hassa is like, you dipped out. Like, you told me you were here for the long haul, and you decided that your personal life was more important than this oppressed class. And Scylla like has a come to Jesus moment where she's like, you know what? I did that. I can't believe I did that. I have to put aside my own personal wants and needs because I did tell my friend I was here until the very end, and I do care about her.
Hmm.
And like it shows their friendship having to like be built back, and I really enjoyed that in this like last book. I think that was some of the most powerful parts, was the look at what it means to be someone who's there for the rebellion and who's there to do the
Hmm.
hard work with others. And there's also like, I really liked this because like Scylla has this like childhood sweetheart that she was in love with, and they have like this very adult like relationship, and they like slowly come
Okay.
to terms that they're never going to be together. And I think that that's very bittersweet as well. And so it does a really good job with the overall arcs of the characters, but it did feel rushed at parts. But you know
Sure.
what? El-Arifi gets an A for effort because it's really hard to do a trilogy this big.
It sounds like it's a really complicated series, though.
It is. It's very complicated. You find out a lot. She does really good with the world building though, because I feel like for how big these books are, they're very fast paced and she gets through a lot, but it's not like I missed so much because I wasn't paying attention. You kind of like want to sit with the information and learn it, which is hard
Okay.
for me because I'm the first to admit I'm not the best about world building or action. And I was very interested in a lot of the world building and some of the action. So
Hmm.
um it was very good though. I highly recommend this series. I think it's a lot of fun.
I own it, so I need to hop on it.
Yeah, exactly. So one pretty good, one I feel like I had like the good, the bad, and the ugly, or like good, middling, best, but with
Sure.
Oathbound, The Ending Fire, and The Lies of Locke Lamora. Um, no hate to Scott Lynch or The Lies of Locke Lamora, just not quite for me. And then for enjoying, I finished Severance season 2.
How was it?
It's really good. I do feel like, you know how like each how in TV series, especially sci-fi, I feel like sometimes there's like the first season is scene setting and then the second season just gets so big. It's
Hmm.
wild. I feel like the second season got really big and wild, but I do like the themes that they're doing with this one. Um it's definitely a show where I feel like the fans have made it so much more complicated in some ways because they overanalyze every single little thing, and they do it because there's
I think
lots.
that's a thing with everything right now, though. The
Yeah.
everything is being overanalyzed, especially on TV, because I also recently watched Love on the Spectrum, season
Mhm.
3, and people are like going hardcore for the families and trying to like come up with their stories and everything online and all this, and attacking them and coming up with like, well, this is why this happened. And the people have gone on record being like, well, that's not actually our story. Like,
Weird.
unless you hear it from us, like, that's not what actually happened. But I think right now there's just like a weird thing happening where people are watching shows and they're getting like so involved where they're trying to figure out all the pieces of it in like a weird obsessive way, even
Well,
for reality TV.
and some of it's like it is meant to be because Ben Stiller he's the executive producer and director of some of the show's episodes. He does do that. Like there are a lot of Easter
Mhm.
eggs and there are a lot of mysteries, but sometimes you're sitting there and you're like, okay, guys, but like, can we not like go so hard? Like, let's also enjoy a little bit.
Right.
Where I didn't really look up online any like reactions to it until I finished it, which I highly recommend doing. Because it was just fun to
I know
like,
nothing about it, so
yeah,
besides what you've told me.
yeah. And I haven't told you much because it is a show
No.
that you kind of want to experience.
Hmm.
Um, and it is really good. I think it has really good themes in season 2 about like what it means to be a severed person on the inside who's only had like 2 to 10 years of existence on the inside of
Hmm.
like, are you a person or aren't you, and how much do you exist outside of this outside person who decided to
Hmm.
create you? and I really liked those types of themes because it makes you question a lot of stuff. And I will say that the show does a good job of making you root for these people who haven't
Sure.
existed for very long because they make them very likable and their outer characters are not as likable. But at the same
Sure.
time, you're sitting there and you're like, well, it's easy to be a delightful, good person who only exists in this vacuum of reality where like
Hmm.
there are moments where they are being oppressed by someone because that they get to be because their outie doesn't know what's happening.
Hmm.
And so, but they also are people who like just have general joy because they haven't experienced a lot of the harder parts of the world. So it does a really good job of like convincing you and making you buy into things and then question those things.
Hmm.
And so it's very layered. It's so good. Um Adam Scott's hair is so wild in this episode where you're like, can you get a haircut at some point? But they take some wild leaps in this show. I'm enjoying
Adam
it.
Scott's one of those people where I waffle so much on like I'll see him at one point and I'm like, I don't find him attractive. And then the next time I see him, I'm like, is he like really hot?
Right. Like
I don't understand what it is with him specifically that I have a hard time deciding where I fall
I would agree with that
fall
statement.
on him.
And yeah, I just really like the show. I think it's very good. It's so intentional and beautiful, and there's still so many mysteries hanging over. So I can't wait to see what they do next.
They're probably
There,
gonna try to stretch this out for quite a while, I would guess.
probably it's huge. Like so many
Hmm.
people talk about it. It has so much buzz around it.
It really blew up though in this second season for whatever
Yes.
reason. And I think that's happening a lot with certain shows right now
Well,
too,
because
actually.
if you have shows that can make it past season one, everyone's like, we better love it because
That's
it'll go
true. Yeah,
away.
otherwise they'll cancel it in
Yeah,
2 seconds.
I know. And so I do think one,
Everyone
this
go
is
and sign the Wheel of Time change.org petition to save Wheel
yeah.
of Time.
So like season three or season two took 3 years of development. So I do think that there was a lot of people who like came on to it at some point and
Hmm.
then were so excited because there was so much hype around season two because it took so long. And Ben Stiller's a big name, so he gets to
And
make
that's
some
true too.
more
He has a
wild
little bit of pull,
swings.
so
Yeah, so you get to, but like the show is absurdist in some of its stuff where like
hmm.
there are so many moments where like the innies like their timelines are funny when you think about them where it's like oh my gosh in their day-to-day life this is exactly what happened to them that's got to be
Hmm.
terrifying um and at one point in season two small spoilers skip ahead a minute uh they get like an outdoor like field trip and they're being led around by one of the best like antagonists in an entire TV show. He's so freaking talented. Um, his name is Mr. Milchick, and he takes them to this tiny little waterfall and he goes, "This is the biggest waterfall in the world." You're just sitting there watching it and you're like, "Why would you lie about that?" Like, that's so stupid. So it's just stuff like that that like tickles you,
Right.
where you're like, and he does like a little like he does like random like dances that make sense of the TV show, but it's just like watching this beautiful man dance in like a tight little turtleneck, being the worst person you've met, and you're like, I love this. Like there was a moment in season two where I jokingly was like, you know what? I did a 180 on I'm on Mr. Milchick's side. Like because it's so funny, it's so silly. So Laura, you have to watch it. I feel like you might not love it as much as I do. It feels like a very big Hannah show.
I don't
Like
know. I might like it.
I think you'll like it. I think you'll really like the world building, and I think you'll be very upset with a lot of the stuff. But it just tickles me. It's a great show. I'm screaming at it a lot. Like I actually like scream at the television of like, "What are you
Really
doing? Stop doing that!" So like, it gets big emotional
interesting.
reactions, similar to Yellow Jackets, which I haven't been able to watch the newest season of very much. So, um. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Severance. Someone come talk to us about it on a show.
Yeah, who could we
Let
bully
me
into
know.
doing a TV Tuesday with us?
Please come talk to me about Severance. I just want to. Maybe I'll force my sister-in-law to come talk 'cause she watches it with me a lot. But like, yeah, it's a good show and
Sci-fi
it's
authors, if
fun.
you're listening,
Come on the
anybody
show.
want to do a TV Tuesday on Severance? So then
Please.
Laura can get an Apple TV Plus subscription to watch that and Murderbot for a month,
Oh my gosh, I need to watch
and
Murderbot.
then
My
she will.
my old
Get rid
roommate
of
was
it.
like, "Have you watched Murderbot?" I'm like, "Not yet. Let's not talk about it."
It looks so great, and honestly, I've kind of been holding out because I'm like, I'll wait until all the episodes are out, and then I'll
Mm,
get the subscription to Apple TV, and then I'll watch that and Severance all in one go.
yeah, I get it. Um, yeah, but I feel like Severance is the one, and rewatching Ted Lasso, but I can't rewatch certain parts when I know they're coming to sadness. So,
Mm.
yeah. But with that, shall we dive into more sad things, such as a paranormal romance with lots of
Uh,
dark parts?
yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so they came in the night. So this book starts off hardcore with
I mean, it's fairly intense.
a person in labor,
Hmm.
Zaziel. They are about to birth their daughter, and we find out that their twin sister Zuriel is there with
Hmm.
them, and she is about to run with the daughter who Zuriel or Zaziel and Zuriel,
Zazie and
Zazie and
or I
Zuriel.
was saying Zazie, but maybe it's Zazie.
I mean, it could be Zazie or Zazie. We'll probably call them Zazie.
Go
Um,
ahead.
but like it's very hard to remember Zaziel versus Zuriel, so I do apologize if I ever misname one of them. I just cannot keep those two names straight. They're too similar in my mind.
Zuri is Ant.
Zuri and Zuri.
There's a U in Ant, and there's a U
Oh,
in Zuri.
thank you for trying to help me. Um,
I don't think it'll work because there's also an A in Ant and an A in
flashback to this
Zazie.
flashback to this weekend when I was hanging out with my little niece and she said, "Guess who's coming today?" And I said, "Who?" And she goes, "Well, I'll give you a hint. It's your sister, and their first name starts with Aunt." And I
That
died.
narrows it down.
Um, so her first name starts with Aunt, but Aunt Zuri is kind of there, and Zaziel names their daughter Izara, and they try to convince Zuri that she has to run now because
Mhm.
the father will find her, and Zuri tries
The
to
father's
convince
coming.
them to come with her, and they just say that they can't do it. And so Zuri takes off, and this awful man shows up, as they often do, named Octavian, as they are
Awful men
often.
show up as they often do.
And he swears that he will find his daughter and he is going to take Zazie home. I'm gonna at one
Mhm.
point accidentally call them Zazu, and we're gonna Lion King it up. Um, and then we flash forward 25 years later
Mhm.
to Izzy, about to celebrate her 25th birthday, go out on the town with her friends.
And her
Even though she
boyfriend.
just wanted a nice little scavenger hunt party, she knows how to party and how to relax. We're about to find out.
I was gonna say she kind of acts a little like put off about like having to go out, but then at the same time she just like gets totally dressed up and is like very much into like, all right, I'm gonna party.
Like me on a any weekday night with friends, we're like, we're gonna go out tonight. I'm like, I'm not in the mood. I think I'm gonna study. And then 9 o'clock would roll around. And I'd be like, oh, well, one drink. Uh, uh, except I was 19. But anyway, uh, Izzy's friend is texting her, telling her to break up with her boyfriend because he didn't do what she wanted him to. His name is Josh, as all Joshes are named.
Yeah.
Um, and they're
You
just
know
kind of
he's bad news.
chatting about her life. Izzy seems to be pretty well adjusted.
Hmm.
She knows that her aunt is a Nephilim, which means that she is part angel. It means she gets to live forever. She gets to turn water into wine and all those
And she
good
looks like
things.
a hottie hottie hottie.
She is a hottie with a body, who Noelle, Izzy's best friend, is very jealous of or wants to
Hmm.
bang. Who knows? Um, but she's happy with the fact that she has her life. She kind of sees her parents as like non-existent in her mind, even though
They're just kind of distant to her, I
yeah,
would say. And I wouldn't say non-existent. Like she just kind of has a unique perspective on her parentage just because she hasn't had that connection there.
she knows about her one parent, and
Hmm.
there are hints that she knows that her father is no
Not
good.
great.
So she goes partying with her friends. There is drugs, there is bathroom
But
sex.
also just like before that, before they go, like her aunt is like, I don't like your friend, but I also don't like your boyfriend. And this is
Wang.
good to note.
I mean, there are so many red flags up until the point where they're
Yes.
fucking in an alley. But there's drugs, there's drinking,
Hmm.
there's bathroom sex that her boyfriend is weird about condoms with and then going down on
Yeah.
her because he wore a condom, as Joshes are wont to do.
He's weirdly possessive too.
Yes.
Like like I don't know. I
It's noted
didn't get good
that
vibes from him.
Izzy isn't particularly like she's not someone who cares about monogamy, but she likes Josh and he cared about monogamy, so
Hmm.
she is in agreement to do that.
Right, right.
So she's dancing, she's having a good 25th birthday, and then she can't find her boyfriend or her best friend. So she goes out and
She's looking and goes out in the alley, and there they are.
Noelle is giving fellatio to her boyfriend. And so
Say it like that.
because I couldn't think of another way to say it.
I'm such a 13-year-old where I hear that and it makes it just sound so funny.
It was a technical term. And so she gets really mad, and he's trying to say it's not what it looks like. And she's like, "You can't say that. It is
It's
obvious what it
exactly what
looks
it
like."
looks like. Noelle and Josh, you are caught.
Then she is very angry, and her face is turning, and they look very scared of her. And all
I
of a
mean,
sudden,
there
she
was
goes,
a moment earlier too where they were like talking, and Noelle says something about like, tell your boyfriend to keep his hands to himself.
and Izzy is like, "That's not in my best benefit." And I almost thought like Nolly's gonna
I'm
take
like,
that for like, I have permission. And Izzy's sitting
yep,
there like, I just mean like I want him touching me. And I'm like, both of those things
you guys
kind
didn't,
of made sense, but like
you
not
need to communicate more clearly because neither of you are getting what the other is
no.
putting down.
Uh, but all of a sudden she feels her teeth kind of push out, which she had also felt during the bathroom sex.
Hmm.
And she ends up draining both of them of all of their blood.
Well, she breaks her best
Oh, she
friend.
breaks Noelle's neck. You're right. She
Yeah, she
breaks
like
Noelle's neck
breaks her in
to
half
knock
practically,
Josh.
and then yeah, she just goes at Josh's neck and just drains him.
And then she calls Aunt Zuri to come help her.
She's
And
like, I
Zuri comes
made a
up.
mistake.
Excuse me, I committed two homicides
I
today.
need help because I made a mistake.
Also, like, she's high on ecstasy, so like that
Yep,
aunt trusted her when she could have been like, I think you're hallucinating.
I know.
Um, but her aunt comes over. She did, in fact, commit two homicides. And
She did, in fact. Well, and the other thing too, like the aunt immediately just like goes into action, like cleaning things up.
she hides the bodies.
Yeah, she
She
hides the bodies. She's like, "We have to go now. Like we're
we're
moving, we're
moving.
leaving." And Izzy's like, "Well, don't we need to like tell their families? They're never gonna know what happened to him." And the aunt's just like, "No, people
No.
go missing all the time." And I'm like,
Well,
"Wow,
she
brutal."
also commits a paper trail for them, saying that they just ran off together and are
Yeah,
somewhere
she's like, they
like
went on a business trip and just ran off together. It happens all the time. I'm like,
I also was
yikes.
like, but when they go missing, they are going to wonder what happened to his girlfriend. Like
Hmm.
in the context, this wasn't the best laid plan, but I guess she's intending for them to never go back and become completely different
Well,
people.
I think she's just thinking like, okay, all three of these are people that like of this similar age. People are just gonna assume like something happened to all three of them.
Yeah. But she doesn't have like Izzy running off with him. That was the part that I
No.
thought was weird. I was like, you need to mention like you ran off with him too. Don't worry about it. But
Hmm.
that was a small plot hole. But then she takes her to like a seedy motel. She has her wash, and then she comes out, and Izzy realizes that the aunt brought clothes that were ready for her that she's never
Hmm.
seen before. So the aunt's been on standby
Yeah,
her
she's been
entire
just
life.
waiting. Like, okay, something's gonna happen. Here's my day two bag.
She's like, well, okay. And she is having a huge breakdown at the fact that she was able to kill people today.
Hmm.
And she needs to figure out who she is. And she finds out that she's a Dhampir, which means she is a byproduct of a vampire and human copulation.
Hmm.
And she kind of hints that like her dad is not a great person. He's a vampire.
I mean, she doesn't hint at it. She pretty much flat out says it.
And she says that he is a very dangerous man. He's wicked, cruel, and powerful. And he's king of his domain. And that's why they can't stay because Izzy having these powers probably flagged it for him that her powers have
He's
awoken.
alerted to it in some way, which I was unsure how that
I
happened,
think it's
but
just like
it does.
because she's a part of him, he's
You can
connected.
sense it.
It's the whole like if you kill the father, you kill all of his progeny type thing. Except I don't think that that happens in this book, but that is a
Mm.
huge belief in vampire lore of like if you kill the
Yeah,
main
I
one.
try to block vampire lore out of my brain.
I know you do, but that is a belief. So I think this is kind of
Okay.
the author's like
That they can like
change.
have some kind of sensing of their line.
Yes. And so she says like she doesn't need blood to survive, but it does make her powerful,
I
faster,
mean, she felt
stronger.
like a lot
Hmm.
more things when she had Josh's blood.
And so they have to keep running while, they just cover up murder.
Hmm.
And so Zuri is stealing cars. She's using her powers to help keep them running. And they just keep going from one place to the next
Hmm.
until all of a sudden, at like the second or third stop,
It's like a La Quinta or something that's mentioned,
yeah,
I think.
and they are caught. And it's very funny because, like, uh, Izzy just gets out of the shower and she's sitting there
Hmm.
like this guy's just talking to them through the chain and it's a very like horrific moment where he's like, "Let me in. Octavian's been looking for you."
Well,
And
and the aunt's like, nobody's in here. And he's like, then why do I hear two people?
I also like these chapters. They're all like named something funny. So this chapter is
Yeah,
called
the
"Come
chapter
Back
titles
with a
are great.
Warrant." Like, come back with my warrant, or come back with a warrant. It's my party, and you'll die if I want you to.
Yes, I love the chapter titles.
um, and it's like we find out that his name is Octavian. Well, Izzy finds out her dad's
Celio,
name is Octavian, and we
but the
no,
the
well, she
guy
finds out
that's
her. Yes, the who's on first, what's on second.
yeah,
She this is the first time she finds out her father is named Octavian,
yes,
from this person. The man's name is Celio, and they call him
the man that's
Cel
chasing them down at the hotel is named
because
Celio.
uh, and his name is Celio because of course you have to have a dark, angry man named
There has to be
Cel because
someone
that
named Cel.
who is technically vampire.
Yes, Hannah and I
And
cannot read a book without someone named Cel.
everyone go to our Oathbound episodes or our Legend Born episodes to find out what we're talking
Yes,
about. But dark, broody men who feel like everyone else is above them must be named Cell.
growling voice.
Weirdly sexual towards the main character for some
They're probably
reason.
gonna hook up.
Yeah,
Okay, must be Cel.
I guess. Well, Cell really just like beats the shit out of Zuriel and they are
Hmm.
fighting and running. And it gets to the point where Izzy has to step in and be like, I'll go with you as long as you leave my aunt
Hmm.
alone. And he says, okay. And she has to like say goodbye. And the aunt like gives her this package to give to the mom. It's like this manila envelope or
Their birth parent.
the birth parent, sorry.
Hmm.
And so she has to go with Cell and she keeps fighting him and running away as this goes on. And he's like, "You promised to come with me." And I do love Izzy for this. She goes, "I promise I'd go with you. I didn't say keep going with you. Like, check the fine print."
I do love some of those moments that she has where she's just like, you need to lawyer up because I
I'm not
I
doing
am
this.
very fluent in legalese and I did not say the specific words that I would go directly with you.
It's also funny because she's just screaming at him like a ton of
Yes.
obscenities, and later everyone is like, "You should be scared of him," and she's like, "I told him to fuck off so many times. I don't care anymore." She calls him Blade, and they're just
Which is
listening.
funny.
They're listening to like soft rap, and she's like, "I was just being compelled to mouth along with Grandmaster Flash and Queen Latifah." Like during this horrific moment. Um, and he has to like hide during the day, but he ties her up. She gets really mad because she has to pee. And they
Well, and
head.
also because she has to watch like terrible TV
Oh
too. And
yeah,
she's like, I threw the remote and was trying to hit him, and now it's gone and he's sleeping. So I have to just watch terrible daytime TV.
this is where it's a La Quinta though, because
This, okay, this is the La Quinta.
you were thinking of the chapter titles because it's called Hotel Motel La Quinta Inn.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, so they keep traveling. She's really mad at him and she's just screaming at him a
Well, I mean,
lot.
to be fair, he
She is
is,
being kidnapped.
yeah, I was gonna say he's kidnapping her and he's also a jerk. So
She also tries to kill him with a stake. He catches it. He's like, I am much more powerful than you. You need to stop doing this.
I also love that he's like, I thought we had an agreement. You just tried to kill me twice. And I'm like, come on, be real, dude. She's obviously going to keep trying to escape.
Well, and he's like, you're just your father's daughter. And it's like, well, maybe you should have realized that.
Right.
Um, and they head towards Caerleon, which I was like, oh, Carleon, like the Godfather?
Like Don Carleone?
What are you
It's
watching? The
Corleone, but
Godfather? I know. But
close
they
enough.
it's I kind of equate it to Vegas, it feels like, where there's lots of like city foot
It
traffic.
does give those vibes. And also like, how Vegas kind of is always like associated with like connotations of like evil and all that.
Yes. But the region of the city her father's over is Arambor. And she finds out from this, like, not all vampires are loyal to her father.
Yeah, there's a
Uh,
bit of a civil situation going on.
and Octavian wants to see her. So she has to go directly to him with Cell. She goes up to this like giant building. It's a skyscraper, and she has to go to the penthouse because, of course, Octavian lives in
Hmm.
the penthouse. And he's like, "My daughter, back from the terrible time she must have been in." Um, and this is where we find out how awful he is because Zaziel is there, and he
Hmm.
is like stringing Zaziel in front of Izzy being like, "Oh, you hate your parents, both of us?" And Izzy is very emphatically like, "No, I hate you. I don't like you. You seem like a bad time." And he says that she can't meet Zaziel because she isn't behaving.
Well, and I feel like wasn't it mentioned that like Zazie looks terrible too, like
Yes,
very pale, like
very, very
gaunt,
run
like
down.
yeah. And so this immediately made me think of like in Jim Butcher's Dresden File
Oh.
series, where I know all of the vampire information, that you can have these people who are in quote unquote relationships who are kind of forced into them and are feeding
Mm-hmm.
on
Feeding
their
demon.
partner.
Yes.
Mm.
And he, he's like he's just so controlling, and so she has to
Hmm.
go to a party tonight for her homecoming.
Yeah, it's like a big
So
celebration, like, oh, the prodigal daughter has
Celebrate.
returned.
Cell takes her to a condo that will now be hers. He does give her a key. And he leaves the room and she like tries to escape immediately and he's just waiting outside the door like, "Are you an idiot?" Like, he's always like, "You're the worst escapee ever." And he points over to where he lives, which is right next door, of course. Um,
Because
and
they're going to be seeing a lot of each other.
she is really creeped out because she comes into the like condo and she finds all these clothes that are like created for her measurement. So someone,
Exact. Like, it's not just like, oh, this might fit. It's like, no, this is perfectly fitted.
but she also talks that it is made
It's
for like
like business
lawyer
casual.
Barbie. It's the early 2000s and she's going out for a night on a town in her pencil skirt and her statement necklace.
A lot of khaki, some nice navy suits.
Some nice like light blue button downs with a
She's
good
ready for
floral
an
necklace on top of
interview.
it. And so she then someone comes in named Nin, and we find out that Nin is another Dampier, who is very pretty as well, but she is
She's
supposed
supposed
to
to be
be
like
her
her lady in
lady
waiting or
in
something,
waiting.
right?
Yeah. So she met her like while she was in utero,
Yeah, yeah.
before
Yeah,
Zazie
because she
ran
was
away.
she was 3,
She
right?
was
And
three. Yeah.
because she says like my earliest memory was like you when you were in utero and you like jumped, and I'm like, oh, that's an odd
Well, and
first
she,
memory.
she talks about how the fact that like Zazie used to have friends before they ran away, and now they're kind of like a shell of themselves.
Hmm.
And so we find that out about Izzy's mom, parent, and
Well, it's also revealed too there's like a different narr or is this the point where a different story is Nin the one that reveals that the people there know a different situation?
I
Like
think it's around this
the
time, but I can't remember. But
Octavian is kind of like spun the story to fit his own
I think that's later
benefit.
when they
Okay.
go out for like to eat and shop maybe, but I can't
Okay.
remember.
All right.
But yeah, we do eventually find out that it's not like Izzy ran away with her aunt. It's like
Hmm.
someone kidnapped Zazie, who it was like a former lover, and Octavian
Yeah.
murdered the person to get them back and bring them back into the fold. But she had already been put in the human foster system. And I was like,
Yeah.
what a what? Octavian is like a drama major. Jeez.
Hmm.
Like, and so Nin wants to go out for better clothing in the giant building because again, we are in Vegas, so it's a one-stop shop. Um, but Nin does show that she is willing to kind of bend the rules for Izzy, where she lets her send an email from her phone because Izzy doesn't have a phone and isn't allowed one. And she's kind of like, I'll try to help you out. You know, I totally get it. You aren't here super happy, but like, we're gonna make the most of it, kind of thing. And they go out dress shopping together.
Hmm.
And this is one of the wild scenes where she's like, you know, I am depressed and I am kidnapped and I did murder two people very recently, but I am here to put on some party music and get ready.
But I might as well have a getting ready montage.
Why not? Uh, and so she finds out like Dampier's are kind of they're like hired help, and then there are also slaves who are typically
Yeah.
humans. But Dampier's
Well,
a
because
free
there's like
will.
this unique way that like vampires are created. They can either be created biologically or like made,
Hmm.
like in the quote unquote traditional sense that we're used to vampires being made as through bites.
But like
So the
only certain
biological ones are like
people,
very valued.
yes, only certain people can birth vampires,
Hmm.
including Nin. So she's seen as pretty high up on the totem pole, and because of Izzy being Octavian's daughter, she's also high up on the totem pole, but they're not technically as high as um some vampires, but it's kind of like
Right.
rich, it's kind of like new money versus old money. Like if you're new money, you're pretty low on the totem pole, but if you're rich enough, that old money could be seen as beneath you, but you can't
Hmm.
disrespect them. That's kind of how I saw it. um but they go down to the party. um there's music, there's welcomings.
She's
It
supposed to like go and mingle with everybody. She meets like two people and then she takes off.
She meets Nin's parents, I think, and they're kind. We find out that Nin's dad was originally a human, but
Hmm.
when Willa, her mother, got pregnant with Nin, he got changed very quickly to
It
kind
was
of
like
be the same.
advised that she change her dad really
And they
quickly. And
seem to
it's, I
actually
think,
love each other.
yeah, they seem to
So,
be in a good relationship. And it made me think that it was like for safety reasons that they
yes.
were like, change him.
Yeah. And so she's having a time. Octavian gives like an introduction speech that she is very much over. And then she heads over to the dessert table, wishing she could eat because she doesn't really have any appetite. And
Hmm.
then she meets a werewolf named Tatum.
Tatum. Tate.
And Tate
Immediately
is
nickname.
very, very like pretty. She has like very muscular shoulders. She's dressed in a suit. She looks amazing. And she's kind of like, okay, I'll leave with you for a little while. And they head out for a bit and they go searching the area. They find this like cathedral with this beautiful statue of what they think is Lucifer. And you find out that like the vampires kind of worship him and think they may have like come from him.
Hmm.
And Izzy doesn't really buy into that, but Tatum's like, I don't know, we don't know anything about this. And
Well,
then
because, yeah, there's like a lot of talk about like fallen angels and like how vampires were supposed to originally be like guardians of humans.
yes. And then it got like bent when the fallen angels came.
Hmm.
There's a whole lore kind of being built here.
Right.
Um, and Tatum says that she's been in this area before. And there's like this giant fountain filled with blood.
Yes.
So it's a whole moment, and then they have sex in the confessional. So
Hmm. And it was interesting because the sexy talk
Lord,
was too much for me.
Lord, I've gone on the record with this on other romance books. When people say daddy to someone, I laugh. Like I think it's the funniest thing I've ever heard to like be in a very sexual moment and be like, daddy. And I'm like, ew, like, what are you
Yeah,
talking
I don't
about?
like that either.
So they have sex. It's fun. And then they go back up. They have to straighten up all their stuff. And we immediately meet Darby, who is Tatum's best friend and
Darcy.
room Darcy, sorry, who is Tatum's best friend and roommate. They are best friends. And Darcy is a witch. And they
And
have like,
Darcy's like tiny. I think it's funny too. They mentioned earlier like Izzy is like so tall and she's like a few inches short of 6 foot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a giant.
I know.
I'm
Uh,
taller than her.
but Darcy is like very tiny. They have more of like the Scarlet Witch
Sprite like.
vibes of like the black like nail fingertips and things like
Hmm.
that. And
And also like Sprite like in appearance, it seems like.
yes. And Izzy has a moment where it's like, are you two a couple? And they're both like, no, we have sex together, but we're really just best friends and very
Hmm.
fluid. And like sometimes we invite a third. So maybe you'll be our third in like 10 chapters.
Maybe.
Maybe. And they just kind of keep chit-chatting about stuff and what it means to be around here. It is a little bit wild because Izzy is like, I am all for making friends with these two people. And it's like, maybe you should hear about the factions of what it means to be a werewolf
Here's
and
my
what it means
thing.
to be a
This was one
witch.
of the things that I found really tricky with this section of the book was that Izzy is like thrown into all of this stuff and does seem to have some pushback, but at the same time is also very willing to just like accept new people and just like head off in directions with them. And again, this might be part of me just not being a super trusting person where I need like 5 to 6 years to trust someone. And I I just find it like difficult to believe like you're thrown into this situation in your father's court and everything that you're just going off with these people and immediately trusting them. And then also just like you still haven't had much of a chat with your birth parent yet at this point.
Well, she's not allowed to talk to her birth parent yet. Like it's so frustrating to her, but she's
But
also
she's
like
not
not
trying that hard to get
she's
there.
yeah, she's kind of like, well, they're with Octavian, so I'll get back to them later.
Oh
It
well. Like get over there. Try more.
it's a weird line to draw where I'm like, oh, I think sometimes it's like, oh, I found like other queer people. I found a community. This feels great. I feel safe. There's someone I can trust. But also it's like, but you don't know who to trust yet. This is still very
That's what I'm
new.
saying. It takes me 5 to 6 business days just to decide.
So it is strange. Sal comes over and he's like, your dad wants you to meet some people. And we find out that Tatum's aunt is like the head werewolf of
Hmm.
their pack. Um, and we she's part of the Ash Hollow Wolves, and Darcy is part of the Aegean Enclave, which we find out was like
Hmm.
a a new we find out that the Aegean Enclave is Switzerland in this group where they're like
Basically, yeah.
neutral parties. And then we also meet one of the sirens, Kaigen Athesia, matriarch of the Lazulian
Hmm.
sirens. So I do like that there's like mixing of different types of people in this dark novel. Um, and then he, Octavian's like, well, if she's a good girl, she'll become a commander in my army. And they're like, not air. And he's like, I'm a vampire, you weirdo. Like, um, and there all of a sudden there is another person who shows up. He is very pretty, but
Hmm.
Octavian is very mad that he's there. He calls him a degenerate
Raj.
cur. And his name is Ekaraj Jindal, president of the Grim Heretics. So he is called a heretic. And he is thrown out.
Hmm.
Um, and after that, like, Izzy, he like dismisses Izzy because she has questions
Hmm.
about what's going on.
And she's tired too, because he's like, "You're tired," and Izzy's just kind of like, "Yeah, you're right, I am." I
I am.
I
I
do
actually
need to get some rest.
don't stay up all night like you weirdos, so I do actually need to have some time. So the next day, um, she kind of meets with Nin. She starts questioning like all the stuff that the vampires don't question, and Nin tries to hint to her how controlling Octavian is and kind of like he is the dictator of this entire place, so what he says goes. Um, but she also kind of drinks the Kool-Aid where she's like,
Hmm.
well, Zaziel doesn't really have friends anymore, and Maester Zaziel doesn't want to leave. And Izzy's like, or they can't leave, like a
Right. I was gonna say it's
prisoner.
more of like a prison
Uh,
situation.
and then we get to find out that because Izzy was polite, she does get to go meet her birth parent.
Hmm.
So they go up to this like meditation garden. Um, she gets to talk to Zazie for a little bit, and Zazie is kind of like is a little bit distant. It's hard for her to like connect with them because they're just so like
I mean,
pulled
they're
back.
very withdrawn.
Mhm.
It seems like they're ill and also like trying to watch what they say in somewhat secretive, protective type situation.
Yeah. And they end up like Izzy gives them the package and it's a bunch of photos from her childhood up until her
Hmm.
25th birthday.
Which is really
Um
sweet.
and it is really sweet. We find out that Zazie gave her this like baby blanket that she kept with her for the longest time. But Zazie warns her that she can't stay here and she should escape through these secret tunnels and that lead out to the city. And she says like and she could escape from there. And they say like just take it, get to a witch for a concealment spell, do whatever you have to, just get as far away from here as possible.
Hmm.
Um and Issy is kind of naive in this moment because she's like, well, just come with me. And she's kind of like, why don't you fight for me? And it is a moment where I'm like, Zazie is obviously in an incredibly abusive situation where
I
they're
I don't
only
know
like,
why that also bugged me too, where it's just like have some I have the
have some,
wherewithal to notice that this is a really bad situation for your parent here.
they've been stuck here for 25 years. It's
Right.
not
They
like,
aren't here by choice.
right. Um, and so we've, uh, Izzy kind of wants to figure out how to get Zaziel out of here. And so she
Hmm.
starts trying to figure out how to do that. She asks if they could ever leave. Nin says with an escort they could. Um, they just have to be supervised during this. So and we also find out during this that is Izara has had to go to all of these like feast functions during the night where she has to sit and watch all the vampires feed on humans that are pretty much their slaves.
Yep.
Nin is kind of like, well, they have 5-year contracts, and then we erase all of their memories so they have
It's like,
nothing,
oh, so
and
like indentured servitude?
we pay them well. And then like Izzy does judge this, and Nin is like, look, we all know it's fucked up, but it's what we do. And I'm like, well, that's not a reason to say
No.
that. Like, that's okay. Um,
Still awful. Okay.
But that night, she has to sit next to her father and watch this all happen. And she asks to leave. And he says that in order to do so, she has to feed off Zaziel, her parent. And it's really like, so parts of this, I understand that this is supposed to be a horror novel. I get deeply uncomfortable when people are victim blaming Izzy because they do it a lot where they're like, you caused this. If you do this, it's your choice.
Hmm.
It's really gross because Octavian is like, I'll let you go if you feed off them. And she's kind of like, that's really messed up what you're making me do. And he's like, I'm not making you do anything. I'm giving you a choice and you're willing and you want something
This
and
was
you want this.
super bothersome though.
Mhm. And so she ends up feeding on Zaziel, and it's like deeply uncomfortable for both of them. But then she
It's
feeds
very
too
uncomfortable to
much.
read though, honestly.
Well, I mean, it's a horror novel, so it's going to be
Hmm.
uncomfortable. But like, she can't seem to stop. She's eating too much from them because also she's not trained to feed on people yet. So like, it's
Yeah.
not an inherent instinct for her. And once she's done, she realizes she fed too much. And Octavian is also feeding off Zaziel at this time. So they are like incredibly like gaunt and they've been
Mm-hmm.
hurt by this, and he like now gives her the opportunity to leave. So
Because
she
it's
had,
kind of again a gross way to prove herself. Like, ugh.
yeah, it's really hard because like he put her in a position where she didn't have another choice, but I feel like in a
Yeah.
lot of books we read that are fantasy, it's like I'm supposed to stand up for what I want and then I'll get it. I'm like, no, in a lot of like these types of situations, that's not how you get around this. You end up doing
Mm-hmm.
things that you are going to deeply regret because you have to try to do this, you know?
Right.
Um, so we find out during they go on this outing, they go shopping. And we find out that there are these neutral territories like the embassy, which is a nightclub, but the heretics are not allowed in. It's a sex club. It's just like really weird how they have all these different things. And also, this is a moment where Izzy starts kind of blaming herself for stuff she didn't mean to, where she's like, well, Octavian forced me to drink from them, but he didn't make me drink as much as I did. And I'm like, well, also, you don't know how to control that yet. So no one taught you because no
And
one's
then
ever really
she's
taught
also,
you.
spiraling, thinking about the people she killed and everything,
Yeah.
and feeling a lot of guilt for that.
But she's out with Nin, and then one of the guards who she's actually kind of become friends with, Knox. It's mentioned by
Knox,
Cell that she's spending a lot of time with Knox. Um,
which is full name Lennox, is that right?
yes,
Okay.
Lennox. And so during this time, she and Nin created a diversion where she can run away for a little bit and have some time by herself. And she goes out, she's trying to figure out a way to get her parent out, and immediately runs into Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
And Darcy's like, "You want lunch?" And she is kind of like, "Yeah, I'm hungry, but I don't have any money." And Darcy's like, "Well, I'll spend money on you." And they're just kind of like hanging out together. They
Mm-hmm.
go to a sandwich shop, they eat food, and Darcy's kind of like, I would like, and it's a moment where Izzy's trying to hint at like, what do you want from me? Like, do you want something political? And Darcy's kind of like, I would like to make out with you. And she's like, well, that's not really what I meant. Darcy figures out like, oh, you're worried that like politically, well, I'm not into politics, and like neither is Tatum. She can't
Mm-hmm.
stop talking about you. And so she's like, oh, I like Tatum too, and I like you too. And they go back to where Darcy and Tatum live at the wharf area. We find out that the werewolves are into business. They're into imports and exports. Um,
Which
something
is
traditionally,
something I did not expect. Like,
I know, I didn't expect them to
usually
be into water.
werewolves, I guess I'm used to werewolves being like a secluded gang or something.
Yeah, it was really funny. But anyway, they're into imports and exports, and they have a very, very long threesome that I'm not going to get into. Um,
Go
but
read the book.
Izzy did talk to Tatum, but they do like check to make sure that no one wants anything to do with her politically. They just like her, and then they do have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do like these sections because they ask about consent and things like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But during this, Izzy accidentally feeds on them.
Yes.
And she makes a bloody mess. She feels very, very bad about it. And afterwards, they both have to kind of take care of her. Um, and it's a moment where like I think Izzy's coming to the conclusion that she does need to have some kind of like she needs to learn how to control herself because she doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
how. And it is
It's
dangerous
she's
for her.
finding herself in these like high emotion and high like intensity moments, and that's when she's losing control.
Right. And then Tatum gets a call from her aunt that like it's gotten out that Izzy has escaped or is no longer at the place. Like it's kind of hinted at that there's going to be a cover up
Mm-hmm.
for this too, but they have to get her back or else they're all in deep trouble. And Tatum is trying to race her back to Aramor when they are thwarted by the heretics. I do think it's very funny whenever you're like, three heretics showed up. And I'm like, okay.
Well, they even say like, "Damn, it's the heretics."
But they like beat Tatum up. They do say like, oh, she's gonna be fine. She was healed as soon as we left.
Well, they shoot bullets, and so
Oh
like
yeah, they shoot like yeah, they do
it's
shoot
lead
silver
bullets or something
lead
like,
bullets. You're right.
or
Uh,
is it lead or is it rubber? I can't
I
remember.
think it's lead bullets. It's lead bullets, but they like lead bullets don't affect her. She was
Yeah,
healed as
because
soon as we
Izzy's like,
left.
"You killed, you killed Tatum," and Raj is like, "We didn't kill her."
Because they take her to see Raj, And he's like, I want to make a deal with you if I could. Um, this is a nice moment where like everyone keeps calling her like Izara Constantine. And she's like, my last name is Hawkins. And I'm like, what a funny little vampire nugget.
That they have last names or
Is that Hawkins from I feel like there's Hawkins is in Dracula. Hawkins
yeah,
is the head solicitor of Harker's firm. He is working with
oh, okay.
Dracula to help Dracula purchase a property in England. Yeah, Mina Hawkins.
That
Um,
yep.
yeah, that's why I was like, that's very funny. They obviously,
I was not even picking up on that.
oh, I was like, Zuri walked away from that situation and was like, well, I'm gonna hide from them, but I'm gonna be funny about it, because that's obviously a fake last
Hmm.
name. Um, so anyway, Zuri says, I am into literature. But she talks to Raj. He says that he wants her to help him take down her father. And he wants to like team up. And
Hmm.
he agrees to get Zaziel free because it's in his best interest that they go
Hmm.
free. And she kind of like calls him out on it of like, that can't be in your best interest. And he's like, well, it'll get help from you, so you don't know my life. Um, but he does ask for some proof that she will help him, and that's by taking some blood from that fountain we saw earlier.
Hmm.
Um,
Full
but
circle.
then Cell breaks up, like breaks in, and he's like, I'm taking her back with me. And Raj is just like, hey, Cell. And she has a moment where she's like, were you two boyfriends at some point? Because that's the vibes I'm getting.
Okay, because okay, here's the thing. Izzy mentions so many times like they knew each other biblically. Like it's three times I think the way it's like
Yeah.
did they know each other biblically? And I'm like, why do we keep saying this?
Because she really wants to point out that she thinks that they were boyfriends at one point. We also find out that Rush is a Dampier at this moment. And so he's kind of like down with the patriarchy. Anyone can be king. And so Cell takes her back from Raj. He kind of just lets her go because their conversation has been had.
Hmm.
Uh, and this is also an awful moment where, again, like this is just such coercive control of blaming someone in a very bad situation. Where he searches her bag, he finds the cell phone that Tatum gave. Oh, because Tatum gave her a burner cell phone.
Yeah, because
And
she didn't have any way to communicate with her aunt. She was looking for a way to communicate with her aunt and everything, and also just to have like a way to talk to anyone in case she needed help.
and so Cell looks through her bag and he's like, just remember, everything that's about to happen is because you did this. You made a choice for something that you didn't even get to keep. And I'm like, that is coercive control to a
Yeah,
T.
I
It's
hated that too.
gross. It's just like a huge, this is like full on horror section.
Hmm.
um, where they go inside. She's brought up to the court, and we see that Knox has been horribly abused, like his
Yeah,
ribs are
brutalized.
sticking out. And Octavian is there, and he's like, well, this happened because he failed to protect my daughter. Um, and he's protecting his clan. And he tells her that she has to kill him, and she refuses. And then he says that if she doesn't, he is going to um give
Nin.
Nin to one of his like worst vampires to have a baby.
Hmm.
And Marius
Because they need
says
another
Marius.
biological vampire.
And Marius comes up and he's obviously awful, and it's obviously going to be brutal for Nin. And so she does agree to kill Knox. And as she's doing it, she like tries to apologize to him, and she's like
Hmm.
sobbing and apologizing. And she could see like by the look on his face that he blames her for all of this.
Hmm.
Which again, unfair. Everyone should blame the person who is abusing everyone.
Right. But then
And
it gets worse because then after she has horribly killed Knox, then Octavian reneges on what he said he would do
mhm. And
and
he
is
says
like,
that
no, we're
no,
still
you're gonna
gonna
have
have that.
Marius. We still need babies.
Hmm.
And so Willa steps up and
Who
takes
is Nin's mom?
yeah, and she takes Nin's place. Um, and he says uh that he agrees to this, but it's like pretty much awful for Willa and
Yeah,
her
because
and
she has a
Nin's
partner and
father.
everything.
And like Izzy is obviously blaming herself from this. And he tells his daughter that he has to go away and the clan will witness her first, like, or the first consummation between Willa and
Hmm.
Marius, which is also just so coercive and gross.
Yeah.
Um, and she Izzy leaves the room and she said today hadn't been worth it. And that is the end of this section. So
What a bummer.
what a bummer of a point. But lots of stuff is happening. I mean, this is
Hmm.
very effective for a horror novel. I feel like a lot of horror novels can try to lean in more towards the gore, but I do feel like this book has like whenever there are horror scenes, it's unsettling on an emotional level, which is kind of
Yeah,
rough.
there's a lot of like emotional and not it's not just physical horror. There's
Yeah.
a lot of other types of horror occurring too.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So join us next time to see how this will turn out because we're in dark
Chapters
territory right now.
26 through the end.
Through the end, the other 50% of this book. It's going by very speedily. So,
Yeah, it is really.
for 549 pages, it does go by quick. We do
I
promise.
mean, the
So,
first half was quick read.
yeah, I agree. So, join us next time as we finish up. If you like what you're hearing, please come chat with us over on our Discord or on Blue Sky or Instagram, where we
Hmm.
mostly are, or you can always email us at owwrpod@gmail.com. Our handles are all OWWR Pod. Blue Sky is a little bit longer than that, but you find us by searching it.
Right.
If you would be so kind, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe to us. That is
It
a
really
great way to
helps.
get people to come to us, and we really appreciate it and love seeing them. You can also text us on Spotify. I don't really know how that works, but someone do it so we can figure it out.
Yes.
Um,
Send us a text. And
love
also share.
that.
Tell a friend.
Yeah, make sure you're sharing about this because Javi is coming on in 2 weeks to discuss their
Yes.
book. So it's a great time to join in on the conversation and ask any questions you would like to get answered about their motivations with
Writing
these
indie books.
characters, all those different things. And you can disagree with us on if you like the term daddy.
We're
We're not
probably in
gonna
the minority.
yuck anyone's yum over here. But yeah, thank you so much for
And
listening, and please come
yeah.
back next week as we continue with our indie mission. Bye.
Bye.